Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Proximity with Ken Joslin. I'm super excited to be able to kick off a brand new series over the next 90 days. We're going to take some time as we prep for the book launch of my brand new upcoming book, 14 Frequencies of Proximity. And guys, for the last 3 years, I've been sharing a keynote around the country that I talk about a lot because this has been the biggest difference maker in my life, literally since I was probably 10 years old. And that is this truth that proximity is a cheat code. Guys, listen, our life does not move by our intentions. Our life moves by our proximity. Guys, we can have the right goals, we can have the right routine, but we can still be stuck. And when we're stuck, all it points to is that we're surrounded by the wrong signals. I look back through my life, guys, literally from fifth grade, and I share about this in the very opening of my book, all the way from the fifth grade, a 10, 11-year-old boy, parents just got divorced. Mom moved us from the Detroit area in Pontiac to the Atlanta area in Gainesville, freshly 2 or 3 years off of my parents' divorce, single mom, fifth grade, broke my left femur playing football, was in traction in the hospital for 6 weeks, gained a bunch of weight. Divorced young boy, 2 younger sisters, mom at home. I was forced to be the man of my home at a very, very young age. And I came back into school overweight. I came back into school not feeling very confident about myself at all. And Miss Lambert, my fifth grade teacher at Maxwell Elementary in Gainesville, Georgia, was a game changer for me. And I didn't realize it then, but even now, as I share in the book, she's got to be in her, I would say, late 70s, early 80s. My favorite teacher of all time. And I just remember the encouragement, the things that she would speak into my life as a 10 or 11-year-old boy, which gave me the strength to be able to continue to move forward. But guys, every next level that we ever hit is tied to a relationship every single time. I refereed high school and college basketball for about 24 years. And one of the best stories I tell people all the time is my very first high school camp I ever went to, probably 1993. I walked into our local high school group led by really my mentors when it comes to officiating, Doc and Nan Sisk. I walk in, the first court I ever get onto, my clinician was a lady named Sally Bell. Now, Sally is one of the most decorated women's officials of all time. I believe Sally's worked about 13 or 14 NCAA women's Final Fours, national championship games. She was a Division I coordinator for 7 conferences, including the SEC. She was the woman chosen from the United States in 1996 to be the representative for the U.S. on the officiating side for the Olympics in Atlanta. She was the best of the best. And so I walk on. Here's this young kid who loves to officiate. I love the game of basketball, played it my entire life, but I walk into my very first clinic to learn how to really referee at that next level. And who's my clinician for 3 days? Sally Bell. It's almost impossible not to go to the next level when you're surrounded by the right relationships. Again, guys, proximity is a cheat code. So the whole premise of 14 Frequencies of Proximity, I'm sitting in my studio right now. This is a key fob. I have a key fob in my hand right here. Some of you guys, you can see this on camera. A key fob. And this is when we started doing the research on this book, 14 Frequencies, because I've been doing this talk on proximity as a cheat code literally for over 3 years. And what we found was inside of a key fob or a card reader at the hotel is what's called a 14-bit proxy code. Now, that proxy code that's inside of this key fob, this is one for the pool in my subdivision. When you get this key fob near the card reader, what does it do, guys? It clicks, it unlocks. You're able to go through a locked door or a gate and go into what we would call the next level. So when you wave this at the card reader, when you take your hotel card and you wave it over your door, what does it do? It opens the door and you're able to go into the next room. This entire book, guys, this key fob has 14 frequencies in it. And when those frequencies in this key fob or in a card, like in your hotel, as they carry that frequency, when it matches what the frequency in the card reader is looking for, again, it opens the door and you get to go into the next level. The problem, guys, is never the door. It's always the frequency or the distance away from the card reader. And so over the next 14 to 15 weeks, I'm going to walk you through each of these areas, each of these what we call frequencies. So in our Core 5 framework, if you're familiar with what we're doing here at GSD, you know our Core 5 framework is the backbone of everything that we do. So we have 5 areas: faith, health, relationships, business, and finances. This really is the core of who we are as human beings. And it's what we teach high-performing, faith-based entrepreneurs. It literally is every coaching call we do, whether it be one-on-one with my GSD corner guys, whether it be in group calls with our GSD circle and our corner guys. Everything that we do is filtered through what we call our Core 5 framework. And this is the operating system for faith-based entrepreneurs. So inside of this Core 5 area, we created 14 frequencies. So in the faith component, there are 3 frequencies. Number 1, there's a frequency of faith, there's a frequency of stillness, and there's a frequency of forgiveness. Now, when we move over to health, guys, you know my journey over the past 5.5 years. I've lost 100 pounds of body fat. As a matter of fact, I was on a call this morning with Joslin Laura Porter. Josh has been on our corner now that he's in his 3rd year. Has grown his business in an unbelievable manner. 2 franchise locations to 5, 10 employees to now over 30. I just did their all staff in Chattanooga, Tennessee about 3 weeks ago with over 30 full-time employees. $1.9 million in revenue this year to over $5.6 million in revenue. So my health journey is massive to me. So when we teach on these frequencies, these things, all of these are really personal, but this one is super personal for me. So there's 3 frequencies inside of the health component. Number 1 is consistency. Obviously, you're going to remember and maybe even recognize our incremental, not monumental concept. So that is consistency. The second one in there for our health is joy. Is what does joy look like in our life? I mean, it literally is. Joy is the thing that attracts the right people into our life. The third one in our health component is humility. And somebody called me about a week or so ago, and they were going to an event where there were several people speaking. If I said the names, you know exactly who they are. And they asked me about a specific person. And they said, Ken, what do you think about this guy? And I said, listen, number 1, I don't know him. I've never had a conversation with him. I have friends that know him. But here's what I would say to you. If I'm going to have someone that I'm looking for in any kind of a mentorship relationship, the number 1 characteristic I'm looking for outside of they've done what I haven't done is humility. How do they carry themselves? So those are 6 frequencies. If you jump into relationships, there's 3 frequencies as well. Number 1 is authenticity. Are they authentic? And this is and I call authenticity the connection frequency. It is the connector. It's how you connect with the people in your life that you need in order to unlock the door to be able to go to the next level. Second one in the Core 5 component of relationships is encouragement. Are you an encourager? And I'll say it this way. When you walk into a room, do people gravitate towards you or do people gravitate away from you? When you're an encourager, and guys, listen, the word encouragement or the word encourager literally means to add courage to. And I tell our people this all the time. If you don't have enough courage, if you don't have enough belief in yourself, borrow mine until you get enough momentum to develop your own. The last one in relationships is the frequency of honor. And honor is massive. And honor, there's 2 of the 10 commandments. One of them is punishable. 2 of them are punishable by death out of the 10. But one of them in the Old Testament is honor your mother and your father. And people will say, well, what about my mom and dad if they're not great parents? Scripture doesn't say honor them if they're great parents. It says honor them because that's the office that God has put them in for us to be able to give them honor. So moving on to business and finances, there's 5 more frequencies we're going to talk about over the next 14 weeks. Number 1 is vision. And if you guys have ever been to one of our live events, you're familiar with our 4610 moments. And our 4610 moments, guys, are moments where I ask every faith-based entrepreneur. We've had thousands of people come to our live events over the past few years. And if you've been to one of our live events, you've heard me say this. Guys, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things this weekend. Number 1 is going to be so counterintuitive to you as a faith-based entrepreneur, and that's be still. I'm going to ask you to be still. And if you've been to my event, you'll see the team will put Psalms 46:10 in these big giant letters in the LED panel wall behind us. And that is, be still and know that I am God. And as entrepreneurs, it's hard for us to be still because we're go, 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 grind, hustle, all the words that you associate with being an entrepreneur. That is bred into us even as faith-based entrepreneurs, when the reality of it is, we just need to slow down. God, what is your vision for my business? What is your vision for my health, my faith, my relationships, my finances? And then listen to God. And Habakkuk 2:2 is very clear. Write the vision down and make it what, guys? Plain. Make it plain. Doesn't have to be elaborate. Make it plain. Servanthood is the next one in business. And I'll talk a lot about it in that episode. And I talk a lot about it in the book about my daughter and how I taught my 4 daughters servant leadership. Servant leaders, I used to pull into school and I'd ask my daughters, hey, and Holly, my 30-year-old with my unbelievably beautiful grandbaby, was 5 years old. I'd pull into kindergarten and I'd say, baby, what are 3 things that servant leaders do? And she'd say, Daddy, servant leaders do 3 things. They put other people's needs before their own. They do things right the first time, and they do things without being asked. I'd say, okay, baby. And I'd look at her in the car and I'd say, okay, baby, Daddy will see you this afternoon. They would get in the car and I would ask them, okay, girls, or Holly in this case, because she's my oldest, how were you a servant leader today? Because guys, in the world that we live in today, the number one thing that I believe the world needs, and I really believe that it goes back to the authenticity, which is the connection frequency. I really believe that people are looking for that frequency of servanthood. Are they servant leaders? So the third frequency inside your business is culture. What does the culture of my business look like? And then finally, we'll wrap it up, and it's finances. And in finances, there's 2 frequencies that we're going to talk about. Number 1 is generosity. What does it look like for me to be generous? And I've heard this, guys. I pastored for 13 and a half years. Youth pastor, grew one of the largest youth ministries in the country into being a senior pastor with several hundred people in our church. Planted it from scratch with 2 couples. And we grew that to several hundred people. And I've heard this so many times. People say, well, Ken, when I get to a certain level of income or resources, I'll be generous. And the reality of it is you won't, because your finances, guys, are tied specifically to one word that we really don't hear a lot about in business circles or in finance circles, and that's called stewardship. And if I can be generous with the little, God will trust me to be generous. He knows he can trust me to be generous with a lot. And if I can't be generous and live with a spirit or a frequency of generosity when I have little, then it's going to be very hard, because all money does is what? Magnifies who we already are on the inside. And the fourth one, or the final one in finances, the 14th frequency, is going to be accountability. And this goes into stewardship. How am I stewarding what God has entrusted me with? Because stewardship is the key, guys. Stewardship's a key in every area. It's a key in our faith. It's key in our health. Like, how am I stewarding the body that God's given me? Relationships. I had a great call this week. I got a really good call from one of my guys in my corner this week, Jim Bloodworth. He calls me on Tuesday night. He FaceTimes me. My wife and I are sitting watching an episode of something on TV, and he goes, man, dude, what do you got going on this weekend? It's Tuesday night, and we're so busy. My wife and her grandfather has his 90th birthday celebration this weekend in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, a 4-hour drive from where we live right north of Atlanta. And so I'm like, babe, I love you. I can't go. I've got so much going on, team, and we're moving into a new office, and we're hiring another team member. We've just got all this growth. There's no way I'm going to be able to go. Phone rings. I answer it. It's Jim. Jim goes, dude, what are you doing this weekend, man? Can you break away? I said, dude, I can't do it. I said, I am so busy this weekend. I said, as a matter of fact, I told Michelle, it's her grandfather's 90th birthday. There's no way I can make it, babe. I love you. I'm going to be gone. It's 48 hours. And I said, but you're going to need to go by yourself. And Jim looked at me and he goes, dude, man, you should go with your wife. And I said, I looked at Michelle sitting on the couch, and I looked at Jim on the FaceTime, and I put the phone out, and I'm like, when's the last time you talked to my wife? And he goes, I haven't talked to your wife in like 30 days, which I knew was incorrect. And he goes, and then he says this, he goes, dude, you need to go to Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge with your wife this weekend. And I looked at both of them and I went, and then Jim starts laughing, and this is what he says. He said, brother, I love you, but if you're coaching me, which I do, If you're coaching me and my wife's got something going on, you're going to tell me, listen, you need to pull away from the business, get everything handled, and you need to honor your wife and steward that relationship well. So I literally looked at both of them. I said, well, I guess I'm going to Pigeon Forge with my wife this weekend. So it was a great time, but it was him holding me accountable and making sure that I stewarded that relationship well. Obviously, with your business and your finances, stewardship is massive. So guys, listen, if over the next 14 to 15 weeks, all through, we're doing a masterclass in June. We're doing another masterclass pre-launch in July. And then August the 18th through the 20th, I'm doing a live event online. And it's going to be our 14 frequencies of proximity. It's going to be our launch of our book. I'm super excited about everything that God's given us and the opportunity he's given us to be able to do this. But my question to you is this. What if you tuned in to these frequencies and said, you know what, God, I want to become the best version of myself. I want to learn how proximity really is a cheat code. And I'm going to stop chasing opportunities and I'm going to start learning how to tune into these frequencies. And here's the deal, guys. You start becoming who the opportunity is attracted to. Again, it goes back to the question I asked you earlier. When you walk into a room, are people gravitating towards you or away from you, or do they even know that you're in the room? So next Monday, we're going to hit frequency number 1 for 14 weeks. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. You can pre-order a copy of our book. I'm super excited. Listen, if you've got a team, I've got some of our corner guys, they're ordering teams for their entire company. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be able to do that. I'm super excited about this. This is just a brief introduction to the 14 frequencies of proximity. But guys, this is the heartbeat of this new book. Proximity is a cheat code. And if you remember, if I've got any of you guys that used to play Nintendo, I'll close with this story. Like 1991-ish, 1991, I just got out of the Air Force after being there for 4 years. I came back to Gainesville, and a buddy of mine, Mickey, he was my roommate at the time. We used to play basketball together all the time. And we would go to Blockbuster. If you ever remember Blockbuster, you'll know what I'm talking about. We'd go to Blockbuster and we'd rent a game called Contra. And Konami is the company that made this game. And now it's famous for the Konami cheat code. And I'll never forget, we'd rent this game every weekend because I couldn't afford to buy it at the time. So we'd go into Blockbuster and rent it for $5 for the entire weekend. We'd rent the game, play it all weekend, trying to beat the game, and we couldn't beat it. And one Friday night after work, we walk in and we're in Blockbuster, and we're walking around and we get the game and we're walking up front. And this young kid comes to me and he goes, dude, this is before Google. There was no cell phones back in 1991. There was none of this stuff existed. And he walks up to me and he goes, did you guys know there's a cheat code for this game? And I'm like, cheat code? No, I had no idea. I'll never forget, he grabbed a piece of paper from the Blockbuster guy and a pen behind him, and he literally writes down this cheat code. Left, right, up, down, BA, start, and you get unlimited lives. Needless to say, that cheat code got us to be able to finish that game that night. We're literally weeks in a row, we would stay up all night long and try to beat this game, and we couldn't beat it. Well, now we had unlimited lives, and it was a cheat code. And I promise you guys this, over the next 14 weeks, as we dive into my new book, 14 Frequencies of Proximity, it really is. Proximity is a cheat code. And I'm going to talk about, guys, how I've built relationships. In June and in July, I'm going to talk a lot about how did I develop the relationships with some of the guys that I have relationships with. Gary Brecca, who's the top biohacker in the world, he just sent me a video 2 days ago that got off a plane in Spain. And he sends me a video and he goes, brother, you're not going to believe this, but I got serenaded by Morgan Freeman this morning. He's singing Come Fly With Me, Frank Sinatra. And I'm like, great. I thought he meant they were playing it over his private jet. I thought they were playing the thing. Well, Gary flips the camera around and Morgan Freeman's literally sitting next to him on his plane. And he's singing Frank Sinatra. I'm dying. And that's the kind of proximity. I text Gary back. I'm like, bro, you hang out with the coolest people on the planet. Well, Gary's been one of my closest friends now for 5 years. There's no way Ken Joslin would be the man he is today or would have, on my health journey, have lost 100 pounds of body fat had it not been for the relationship that I have with Gary Brecca. My relationship with Grant Cardone, my relationship with Erwin McManus, my relationship with Horst Schulte, the former CEO and co-founder of Ritz-Carlton, my relationship with John Maxwell. I mean, I could go Eddie Wilson. I could go on and on and on and on and on. all the amazing relationships. Sharon Lecter, co-author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, she's hopping on our call this month for our GSD community, our GSD circle, and our corner members to come on to pour into how did we build the brand of Rich Dad Poor Dad? How did we market and brand ourselves to where I believe it's the #1 financial book ever sold on the planet? She's going to come on and teach that. How did I develop the relationship with people like Sharon? I'll never forget, guys, before I wrote my first book 5 years ago, I'm sitting at Sharon and Mike's house in Paradise Valley, right outside of Scottsdale. We're sitting at this big, long table that she has. And I've got my hand sitting just like this on the end of the table, and she's at the very head of the table. And I'll never forget when Sharon looked at me and she just put her hand on my hand. She goes, Ken, she goes, whatever God's put in your heart, you can do. Just dream, just go after it. And that was all I needed from her. I mean, literally like one of the top authors in the world, in the history of the world. And she's telling me, go write your book. So that led into my first book, which now leads into this second book, The 14 Frequencies of Proximity. So join me next Monday, 1 frequency a week for 14 weeks. We're also going to give you guys an opportunity. You can go to growstackdrive.com/1414, growstackdrive.com/14, and you can pick up a copy of the book. You can download a free chapter. It's going to be amazing. So again, growstackdrive.com/14 is the link for you to go in and check out the book. You can download a free chapter. We've got free masterclasses, pre-launch events coming up in June. We've got one coming up in July, and then a 3-day event in August where I've got some of my friends, Gary Brecca included, who are going to come on and they're going to teach for about 15 to 20 minutes some of these frequencies that we have. It's going to be an amazing time. I'm looking forward to it, and I can't wait to see you there. Guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of Proximity with Ken Joslin. I'll see you next week.